What's up, guys? Coach Brandon here. Now, we got food tracking down. We know about setting a calorie budget. And I want to show you a few extra strategies that can take things to the next level, especially if you may have hit one of those plateaus we talked about earlier, and you want to figure out how you can really tweak things and optimize it to bust through. Now, when it comes to nutrition, I always describe the processes we can implement to my clients as a funnel, right? So envision a funnel right now. And at the top of the funnel are the things that you will do that have the most impact. And we've already covered those. That's literally just tracking what you eat and then setting a calorie budget. That's going to get you like 85, 90% of the way to your goal, whether it's weight loss or muscle gain, or even just maintenance. So always keep in mind that we want to be as efficient as possible, right? Which means doing the least to get the most. And those two habits absolutely accomplish that. But you're not at really 100% effort or tweaked 100% or optimize 100% there, which is fine, because we always need to balance how much time it's taking to eat well and count every calorie and everything against how it affects the rest of our life. So you have to have a very real conversation with yourself. What are you willing to sacrifice, or how much inconvenience are you willing to make in your current lifestyle to implement these things? Now, some of us, we just may be like, hey, we just want to count calories and we'll track our food on MyFitnessPal. Anything after that, I just don't have time for it. And that's okay. Like, you need to be real about what your life accepts at a particular time. And it's not stagnant either. That may change as time goes, right? We're dynamic, our lives move around, our responsibilities ebb and flow. So sometimes you may have time to be more dialed in. Other times you may have to triage it and just go back to the two things that we already talked about. But if we're moving down the funnel from having the calorie budget as a second step, our third one is going to be paying attention to or counting macros. Now, macros is short for macronutrients, and there's a few macronutrients, but the three main ones we're going to pay attention to are proteins, carbs, and fats, right? So carbohydrates and fats. So protein is mostly involved for our purposes in muscle repair and maintenance during a fat loss phase, right? So protein is muscle sparing, meaning that as your body starts to lose weight, eating enough protein will save the lean muscle tissue you have, which is important because we don't want to lose all the muscle that we have on our body as we lose body fat, because we want to look lean and we want to look athletic even as that happens. If we're trying to build more muscle, right, we need to have adequate protein for that process to take place. So 1 gram of protein is equivalent to 4 calories. Now, also 1 gram of carbohydrate is equivalent to 4 calories, and carbs are our energy source. So they get a bad rap these days, but carbs are really like the jet fuel for your workouts and all the other things you do throughout the day. So carbohydrate is very important for your energy needs. So we need to avoid sort of that myth that carbs are bad or evil. And finally, fats are important for our main reason for us and our performance benefit because of the regulation of hormone levels that are involved in both weight loss and muscle gain. So one thing to note, by unit of measurement, right, by unit of volume, 1 gram of protein or carbohydrate is equivalent to 4 calories of energy. 1 gram of fat is equivalent to 9 calories, meaning that it's more than twice as calorically dense by unit of volume. So that's why some people will be like, oh, I'm eating keto, and they're just eating tons of bacon and avocado and things like that. And they're really just packing in the calories when they shouldn't be monitoring in that way. So be mindful that fats are very high in calories. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they have more stored energy than others. And that may be a good thing if you're trying to create a calorie surplus like we talked about before. So modulating your macros, we already did when you were setting MyFitnessPal. We set 40% of your calories from carbs, 30% from fat, and 30% from protein. And that's a good starting point for most people. But say you want to take things to the next level. You may want to move your carbs and fats around while keeping protein fairly consistent at about 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. Now, I've included a worksheet to this lesson that's going to help you change your macronutrients around if you want, and show you some different ways that you can set up your macronutrients depending upon your specific goal, activity level, and things like that. But generally, we want to keep protein consistent. And then on the days that we're more active, eat more carbohydrate and a little less fat. And on the days we're more active, eat less active, eat a little bit more fat and a little less protein. So more activity equals more carbohydrate, less fat. Less activity, the inverse, more fat, lower carbohydrate intake. And that's what's called macrocycling. So we're cycling our macronutrients of fat and carbohydrate depending on our energy output level. So just to keep it as basic as possible, when you're moving more carbohydrate, less fat. When you're moving less, more fat, less carbohydrate. And we move those numbers depending on keeping our calorie goal relatively consistent throughout. So we want us to go up and down in ratio like that. So that's the first step down the funnel that we can implement after counting macros, right? So counting the macros at all, and then cycling them to our energy needs throughout the week, depending on our workouts. And again, check out the worksheet. I have a nice breakdown of how this would look depending on your workouts during the week. Now, we can take this even a step further and optimize for an individual 24-hour day and say, how am I consuming macronutrients relative to my energy requirements throughout the day? So it would look like this. Say you're going to work out in the afternoon. You would have maybe a 2 o'clock workout. Your breakfast is going to have a moderate amount of carbohydrate, a moderate amount of protein, and a moderate amount of fat, so a balanced breakfast. Then your lunch or workout meal before your workout is going to have a high amount of carbohydrate, a low amount of fat, and a moderate amount of protein. Your meal immediately after your workout is going to have a high amount of carbohydrate, low amount of fat, moderate amount of protein. And then finally, your dinner, we're going to go the inverse. Now you don't need as much energy going to sleep. You're going to have lower carbohydrate, higher fat, moderate protein, like that. So that would be an individual day. And then if you have a day without a workout, we would just keep that carbohydrate lower and distribute it evenly throughout the first 3 meals of the day. So as you can see, it gets a little bit technical at this point. And this is only if you really want to optimize to that 100% of all the strategies you can implement down the funnel, right? So one thing to consider is the point of diminishing return with implementing these strategies. Like I said initially, no matter what your goal is, counting your calories, moderately monitoring your food intake, and then having a calorie budget is going to get you like 85 or 90% of the way to your goal. And a lot of my clients just stop there. But if you want to implement these other strategies, just understand that there's a point of diminishing return for each of them. They only may get you another 1 or 2%. But if you're that person you really want to optimize, I highly encourage you to check these out, if only for the fact you'll get a better understanding of how your body operates and really, really be optimized, right? And that is our goal. Like, we want to get the most out of ourselves. So compare the amount of time and effort it's going to take to implement this to how much time and effort and frustration you may want to spend in figuring it out initially. Again, everything the first time we do it is going to take a lot of effort. It's going to be challenging. But once we get it complete, the next time it'll kind of become a system and move forward from there. If also you were to hit a plateau in your training, right? And you're like, say you're in a weight loss phase and you hit a plateau, you're losing that 1%, and all of a sudden it just stops, then it might be time to say, hey, maybe I should start counting my macros or paying attention to timing, things like that as well. So these are tools in our toolkit when we get stuck at a plateau, whether gaining or losing, to really optimize and see if we can't get to that next level. So if you're interested, check out the worksheet and you can play around with the different combinations. Make sure you change your goals in MyFitnessPal accordingly to match the different macronutrient profiles that you're looking for to optimize, and make sure that you complete the activity attached to that worksheet as well before moving on to the next lesson.